Chicago, Illinois, March 2025. Sarah is 31 years old, a computer science graduate from the University of Illinois. 3 years of experience as a junior software engineer at one of the country's largest fintech companies. Good salary, health insurance, the kind of career her family always dreamed she'd have. On a Friday afternoon, with no prior meeting, no warning, she received an email. The company had integrated a generative AI system capable of generating, reviewing, and documenting code. What Sarah completed in a week, the system delivered in 2 hours. She wasn't let go for underperformance. She didn't lose her job to a cheaper developer in India. She lost it to an algorithm that doesn't need a salary, doesn't take vacations, and never asks for a raise. And Sarah is not an isolated case. What happened to her is repeating itself, silently, in offices from New York to Los Angeles, from Seattle to Austin. In banks, law firms, marketing agencies, financial consultancies, HR departments. This video is about what's really happening to the American job market, about the data that corporations celebrate in their quarterly reports but never mention in all-hands meetings, about the cities and sectors hit the hardest, and about what you can do right now before the wave reaches your door. If you look at the official government data from 2025, everything seems under control. Unemployment hovering around 4.3%, GDP growing, corporate earnings beating records quarter after quarter. But researchers at the Yale Budget Lab and economists at the Federal Reserve identified something deeply unsettling beneath those reassuring statistics. US GDP growth in 2025 had become almost entirely disconnected from job creation. Productivity was rising, hiring was not. And when you dig into the sector-level data, the collapse becomes brutally clear. Surveys of American companies revealed that 66% of them reduced entry-level hiring, specifically because of AI integration. In the tech sector, the layoffs of 2023 and 2024, which the media framed as a post-pandemic correction, never reversed into rehiring. The positions simply never came back. The International Monetary Fund estimated that 60% of jobs in advanced economies are directly exposed to AI. In those economies, including the US, roughly half of that group faces genuine substitution, not complementation. And the World Economic Forum projected that 92 million jobs will be displaced globally by 2030, with the United States leading both the destruction and potentially the creation of new roles. But the word potentially carries enormous weight, because job destruction happens at algorithmic speed, measured in months. Job creation happens at human speed, measured in years, and it is in that gap where the real cost accumulates. Economists are beginning to call it the vanishing entry level, the disappearance of first-rung job opportunities. And in the United States, it is happening at an accelerated structural scale. Think about what the American job market always promised young graduates. You finish college, you join a company in a basic role, you learn by doing, you make low-stakes mistakes, you build experience. And in a few years, you develop the judgment and tacit knowledge to take on more complex, better-paid responsibilities. That was the model. That was the unspoken social contract between companies and workers. AI is breaking that contract. Entry-level roles were precisely the most exposed. Structured data analysis, document drafting, financial reconciliation, code review, legal research, information processing. These are tasks that generative AI executes in a fraction of the time and cost of a human employee just starting their career. The result is that American companies are arriving at a conclusion that is financially obvious but socially devastating. It no longer makes economic sense to pay an entry-level salary for someone to learn by doing what AI already does instantly. And this creates a systemic, long-term warning that goes far beyond the individual. Entry-level roles were always the training layer through which practical knowledge was passed from generation to generation within organizations. If that layer disappears, where will the senior specialists of 2035 and 2040 come from? The talent pipeline is being blocked right now, and the full consequences haven't even arrived yet. For decades, the American economic narrative was clear. Invest in higher education, enter a white-collar career, and you'll be shielded from the waves of automation sweeping through manual sectors. That narrative is dead. Researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas published data that explains exactly why AI is hitting the most educated professionals so severely. The distinction lies between two types of knowledge. Codifiable knowledge, everything documented in manuals, regulations, models, guidelines, laws, and technical standards, is absorbed by AI with superhuman efficiency. And this type of knowledge dominates junior and mid-level roles across America's high-skill industries. Tacit knowledge, the situational read of a complex negotiation, the undocumentable judgment of when a client is about to walk away, the political intuition of how to present an idea to that specific board, that still lies beyond AI's reach. The 10 American white-collar roles with the most documented decline include junior software engineers, entry-level financial analysts, paralegals and legal researchers, reconciliation accountants, marketing and market research analysts, technical writers and copywriters, HR analysts and talent screeners, regulatory compliance analysts, executive administrative assistants, and entry-level business analysts. In every single case, the pattern is the same. One senior professional with AI tools now delivers the output that previously required an entire team of juniors. Corporate math is ruthless, and the layoffs follow. And there is a phenomenon even more corrosive than direct unemployment: wage compression. Professionals who keep their jobs report being rehired as reviewers or editors of AI-generated content at half their previous salary, and often with more cognitive strain than before, because fixing the machine's hallucinations and factual errors is more exhausting than creating the content from scratch. The impact of AI on the American job market is not uniform. It follows a very specific geography, and understanding that map is essential to assessing real risk. Cities with the highest concentration of knowledge work jobs are the most exposed. San Francisco and Silicon Valley lead not only in AI adoption, but in tech sector layoffs. The wave of 2023 and 2024 removed over 260,000 positions, and researchers confirm that a large portion of those roles never returned because the work was absorbed by automated systems. New York City, with its dense concentration of finance, law, and media, faces brutal pressure in its legal and financial sectors. Midtown law firms are integrating AI systems for discovery and legal research. Wall Street banks use AI for risk analysis and reporting that previously required dozens of junior analysts. Seattle saw Amazon and Microsoft lead both the development and the aggressive internal adoption of AI, which is doubly significant. These companies build the tools and then deploy them to reduce their own operational headcount. Austin, which became the new tech hub of Texas, attracts companies migrating from more regulated states, but they arrive with organizational models already restructured to operate with fewer humans. But there is a less discussed and equally important phenomenon: the impact on mid-size American cities. Places like Columbus, Ohio, or Charlotte, North Carolina, which had diversified their economies toward financial services and corporate support through the 2000s, are now watching those functions migrate not to other cities, but to servers. The factory worker who lost their job in Detroit in the 1990s could still migrate to other factories. The financial analyst who loses their role in Columbus today faces a market where that role has ceased to exist at national scale. There is a paradox at the heart of the American economy in 2025 and 2026 that economists have begun calling the Phantom GDP. The mechanism works like this: Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and hundreds of smaller companies replace entire departments, analysis, writing, compliance, legal support, with AI systems. Operating costs plummet. Earnings per share rise. The stock market celebrates. GDP registers growth. But the money saved on wages does not go back to American workers. It flows directly into shareholder dividends and into purchasing more computational capacity, which will automate more functions. Analysts at Citrini Research put it in terms that have echoed across Wall Street: how much do machines spend on discretionary consumption? The answer is zero. And that matters enormously, because household consumption sustains approximately 70% of US GDP. The American middle class, with its mortgages, car payments, college tuition, favorite restaurants, and streaming subscriptions, is literally the engine of the world's largest economy. When the backbone of white-collar jobs that sustain that consumption begins to shrink, the chain of consequences is devastating. Retail suffers, the housing market trembles, local service businesses close. Corporate growth becomes completely detached from the well-being of actual people. GDP grows on paper, while Main Street quietly deteriorates. And it is precisely that disconnect that the data of 2025 and 2026 is beginning to reveal with growing clarity. There is a cost that doesn't appear in corporate earnings reports, that doesn't factor into productivity spreadsheets, that is rarely mentioned in policy discussions in Washington. It is the human cost. Researchers at the University of Florida formalized a new clinical category they called AIRD, AI Replacement Dysfunction. It is the cluster of psychological symptoms affecting American workers living under the constant threat of being replaced by algorithms. The symptoms include persistent hypervigilance, severe anticipatory anxiety, chronic insomnia, paranoia about employer intentions, and, in the most extreme cases, a deep disintegration of identity. The question that quietly corrodes, if a machine does what I do, what is my value? The American Psychological Association documented in its 2026 report that AI-related job insecurity had become one of the leading sources of chronic stress among American workers between the ages of 25 and 45, precisely the group that invested the most in professional development and that now feels most threatened. The Johns Hopkins School of Public Health recorded at 2026 conferences cases of laid-off workers who sought emotional support from AI-based therapeutic chatbots and found systems that simply validated their worst thoughts with no real human support available. The bitter irony, they lost their jobs to AI and were failed by AI when they needed help. Work in America is not just a paycheck, it is identity. It is how you answer when someone at a Christmas party asks, "So what do you do?" It is belonging. It is the answer to the existential question of where you fit in the world. Stripping that from a person without adequate support structures is not economic efficiency. It is a silent public health crisis. There is a way forward, but it requires deliberate action, and the models that work already exist. At the corporate level, American companies that simply laid off workers and bet everything on automation quickly found a ceiling. Those that invested in transforming their employees into system orchestrators, professionals who direct multiple AI agents the way a conductor leads an orchestra, achieved far more sustainable results. The Kyndryl People Readiness Report documented that 71% of American corporate leaders acknowledged that their workforces were not prepared to operate in AI-driven environments. Companies that acted on that diagnosis, investing in practical micro-credentials, university partnerships, and internal reskilling programs, pulled ahead of their competitors. At the policy level, the most successful international model is Singapore's Skills Future, a national system of individual credits for continuous reskilling, focused on AI and technology. In 2025, more than 105,000 people completed subsidized training programs. The result, a heated job market, a narrowing talent gap, and a crisis mitigated before it fully set in. In the US, similar initiatives exist, but at far smaller scale. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and state-level programs in Colorado and Massachusetts have begun directing resources toward AI reskilling, but the scale remains dramatically insufficient relative to the speed of disruption. The gap between the pace of automation and the pace of institutional adaptation is the greatest structural risk the United States faces this decade. Not AI itself, but the inability to respond to it with the necessary urgency. If the past decade of American corporate culture idolized learn to code as the universal path to professional security, AI has commoditized basic programming at record speed. Today, anyone with access to the technology can generate functional code in minutes. What cannot be commoditized are essentially human skills. And LinkedIn data from 2026 shows the American market paying an increasing premium for 4 specific competencies. Situational ethical judgment. In an office environment flooded with reports, analyses, and strategies generated by AI in seconds, the ability to evaluate which path actually makes sense for that client, that company, that specific moment has become the most expensive differentiator in the market. Producing the answer got cheap. Judging whether the answer is the right one got very expensive. Systemic orchestration, the ability to break down a complex business problem into subtasks that can be efficiently delegated to multiple specialized AI agents. This is not a programming skill. It is a strategic and abstract capability. And it is what separates a mediocre manager from an indispensable one in 2026. Analytical skepticism, the ability to oversee automated outputs without falling victim to automation bias. The human tendency, documented in behavioral studies, to passively trust the system because it seems confident. Knowing when the AI is wrong, even when it is wrong with eloquence and numerical precision. Relational leadership, maintaining human cohesion in teams working side by side with automated systems, fostering genuine belonging, leading people through existential uncertainty. This is the competitive differentiator that no probabilistic algorithm can replicate. The World Economic Forum and independent economists have outlined 3 possible scenarios for the American economy by 2030. In the optimistic scenario, American companies and the federal government synchronize massive investments in reskilling. Bureaucratic roles disappear, but they are absorbed by new orchestration positions, multiplying across healthcare, clean energy, infrastructure, and technology. The productivity gains from AI are distributed more broadly. The United States reaffirms its economic leadership with an adaptive, competitive workforce. In the moderate scenario, the most statistically likely, automation advances faster than adaptation programs can respond. A technical elite prospers with record salaries, but a growing share of the American workforce gets stuck in low-paying, precarious jobs, cut off from the dividends of AI-driven productivity. Inequality deepens, social tension rises. In the pessimistic scenario, the Phantom GDP takes its revenge. Machines produce, but they do not consume. Wages contract, credit tightens, household spending implodes. Corporate growth turns against the very foundation that sustained it, and the United States enters the most unusual economic crisis in its history, caused not by scarcity, but by excess productivity concentrated in the hands of a very few. Which of these scenarios becomes reality depends on decisions being made right now, in Washington, in the boardrooms of American corporations, and in the individual choices of every professional. Automation is happening at algorithmic speed, measured in months. Human adaptation happens at organic speed, measured in years. That gap is where the real cost accumulates. The question is no longer whether AI will change your work. The question is what you are doing today while there is still time to choose which side of this transition you want to be on.